محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس أهل البيت وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أما بعد، فقال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters, illuminate your hearts and minds at this majlis. وَلِلَّهِ صَلَوَاتُ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
It is narrated that once in the city of Medina, an ice merchant, so before the days of fridges and freezers, when people wanted to have a nice cool drink or they wanted to cool off a little bit, you would go to your local ice merchant and buy some ice cream. You know, they would have them in big chunks. They would take something and break it down apart, give you the appropriate size that you would like. So it said that there was this ice merchant on a particularly hot day in the summer. And for some reason, he wasn't getting much business. People are passing by and no one is buying. So he begins to yell out to the people in the marketplace who are walking by. He says, "Irhamu." He says, "Have mercy on the one whose capital is melting." My capital is melting. His capital is what? He doesn't have the dinar yet. It's in the ice. And by the second, people are passing by and no one is purchasing. No buyers. Maybe his marketing is not good, or maybe the ice cream man across, he was having better sales. We don't know. So he begins to yell out, "Have mercy on the one whose capital is melting." Now, Al-Qurtubi, he says this is also an analogy, my dear brothers and sisters, for our time. He says time is also every man and every woman's melting capital. Why, my dear brothers and sisters? Because time is a loan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every day, you have 86,400 seconds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows upon you. Do we take advantage of this time? As the seconds and hours and days go by, they don't come back. And that every single night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from His mercy, He decides to what? Extend that moment into another day, into another day. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at any given moment, He can take His amana back. So we're given this time. What do we do with our time? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Surah Al-Asr, swears by time. Now Allah, when He swears by something, that means Allah is taking this subject matter very seriously. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, the Lord of the universe, is swearing by time. Allah makes a qasam. He swears by time that what? وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Allah swears that by time, mankind is at a loss. No matter what we do, we're at a loss. No matter how you go about it, time will come up on top. Eventually, under the crushing weight of time, there's nothing you can do. Right? And look at the infinitesimally small amount of time we occupy on Earth. I mentioned a couple of nights ago, billions of years were before us, billions of years are after us. We're in a very short speck of time. So Allah swears by time that we are at a loss. Eventually, what's going to happen? We're going to die. Down the line, we're going to be forgotten. Yes, maybe your grandkids might remember you, your great-grandkids, but how much after that? Do you remember your great-great-great-grandparents? Most likely not. Except Allah then states the exception. Those who abide by this exception, they will, inshallah, not be at a loss. Illa. So Allah says, He swears by time. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Except those who believe. Believe in whom? Allah Azza wa Jalla. The Prophet, the Quran, the Day of Judgment. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. They take that belief, they transform it into action. They act in righteous ways. They give charity. They pray. They fast. They implement justice in society. They help the orphans and the needy. Right? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they abide by what? By truth and by patience. You find in this beautiful surah, 3 ayah, 3 verses, Allah basically summarizes the main core of religion. Religion is what? That all of us, we are here for what purpose? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I've created jinn and ins, mankind and jinn, except that they worship me. So you will be at a loss unless you do these things, which are the core of faith. You believe, you act righteously, you abide by truth and honesty, by haqq, and you abide by patience. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So this begs the question, my dear brothers and sisters, why is it, if time is so important, it's this loan from Allah Azza wa Jalla? Every second that passes by is a second, is a minute, is an hour, is a day that will never be seen again. Ya layta ash-shabab ya'udu yawman. Right? The poet says. He says, if only I wish for the youth to come back again. But it's not going to come back. Right? You're going to have to live with the Botox. You're going to have to do the wrinkles unless you do Botox, right? So there is no chance for what? For time to come back again. So this begs the question, why do many of us engage in such time-wasting behaviors? And now I'll provide you with many statistics on how much we as Americans waste our time. According to the website Statista, the average American spends what? Upwards of 4 hours a day, 4 hours on TV. Now probably this statistic is heavily leaning towards the older generation. Why? Because some of the younger generation, what do they spend their time on? Phones and devices and iPads, right? Sure, you've all seen the iPad kid, right? The kid who can't eat, who can't do anything unless they're playing Minecraft or Roblox on their iPad. Well, we also have iPhone adults, same thing. They can't be sitting in a gathering, they can't be on the dinner table unless they're what? On WhatsApp, on Telegram. You find that the average adult spends 3.5 hours on their phone every single day. Now, personally, I think maybe this study's a bit flawed, because from the people that I've seen, it's more like 6-7 hours. If each and every one of us was to go right now, check their screen time, it'll be upwards of 5 hours. The average teen in America spends 6 hours on TikTok. And we always talk about TikTok. Now, is this a very productive and useful expenditure of your time? Spending all of these hours on TV, on your phone, on your iPad, on TikTok. This media, does it align with the purpose set out by Allah? Or is it something that will lead you to a loss? That's something we all have to ponder and think about. Many of us spend so much time listening to music. Now, regardless of the fact, is it inappropriate music? Is it haram? For the most part, when you listen to hours and hours on end of music, how is that benefiting you in your akhirah, even in your life goals, your career, your overall happiness? It's a big waste of time, let alone the indecency that is mentioned within so much of this music genre. You find Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, salamullahi alayhi. In Dua bi Hamza al-Thamani, he asks Allah to help him avoid majalis al-battalin. What are majalis al-battalin? Majalis al-battalin is after we come here to the masjid, we're in so much ibadah, we're praying together, we have a thought, then we go home and what starts? The man and the woman, they gather, they start talking about her, they start talking about him, how he got married twice, how she did this, how this happened, right? It's basically gatherings where ghiba happens, where nonsense talk is mentioned. Oh my God, did you see, the kind of dress she was wearing? Did you see what he did the other day? Stuff that does not help your akhirah or your dunya. This is called majalis al-battalin. How much time do we waste in majalis al-battalin? And by the way, my dear brothers and sisters, ghiba, backbiting, and this kind of talk goes both ways. Yes, the person who commits the act of ghiba, who's backbiting, who's spreading rumors, yes, they're committing a sin. But don't you need an audience for this to be spread? Someone doesn't sit in their room and talk to the walls, do ghibah to the walls. You need a receptive audience. So sometimes you might say, well, I don't engage in ghibah. My dear brothers and sisters, even if you're the recipient, if you're there and you don't try to steer the conversation somewhere else, try to avoid that discussion, you're part of the problem. And in fact, you will be held accountable as well. If you're not able to steer the discussion away, propose alternative topics, you leave such a gathering. This is what? Majalis al-Bukhari, as named by Imam Sajjad, peace be upon him. You find, my dear brothers and sisters, another problem many of us face, those of us who work, especially those of us who are in school, younger brothers and sisters, is procrastination. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, procrastination is one of the worst ways to waste your time. Because what? You end up seeking refuge in things that are useless, like social media, TV, whatever it is, YouTube. Why? To avoid getting done the things that are your priority. And for many people, this cycle of procrastination can really, really lead to so much of their time being wasted. You find it robs workers, students of much of their productivity. There's a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, sallallahu in which he states, إِنَّ أَكْثَرَ أَهْلِ الْمَحْشَرِ ضَجِيجًا مِنَ التَّسْوِيفِ. On the day of judgment, the people that are the most anxious, the most worried, the people that are really, really on edge. Why? Because they know their Hisab Kitab is not clean, right? مِنَ التَّسْوِيفِ. Because of procrastination. This is what Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying. Why? Because that person is going to say on Monday, right, Ramadan 26, I vowed to start praying. But I said, you know what? There's a couple more days till Eid. I'll start on the day of Eid. Eid comes, I'm busy, we're cooking, the family's over, I'll start tomorrow. I've been listening to music, you know, I've been listening so far, let me just do it a couple more days. And then what? Your sins extend, your good deeds, your good habits are not enforced because of procrastination. Once, a Bedouin man who was traveling through the deserts, he passed by Medina. Now, once he got to Medina, this is after the migration of Rasulullah to Medina. He heard that there's this new community, there's this new thing called Islam. He saw some of the people praying in the masjid. So he asked them, I'd like to learn more. So they brought this man to Rasulullah. He met Rasulullah. SubhanAllah, he's just a random man walking in the desert. He travels throughout the Arabian Peninsula. He had the tawfiq of meeting Rasulullah. So he asked him, tell me, I'm interested, I'm very curious, tell me about this community. So the Prophet begins to tell him about Tawheed. He believes in Allah. He begins to tell him about Adalah. He believes in the justice of Allah. He tells him about Ma'ad, the Day of Judgment. He believes. He finds all this is what? Mu'alim lil-fitrah. It's all acceptable to his fitrah. He finds the teachings beautiful. He says, teach me about the practices of Islam. He tells him about prayer. He says, this is such a beautiful act. He tells him about fasting, so on, so forth, until the Prophet began to teach him about the what? The prohibitions. He got to the point, he says, now in Medina, the Quran, the third verse has come down, a prohibition. Alcohol is prohibited. Now this man said, wait. Take a step back. He said, as for everything else that you said, I believe in Allah. I believe in you as the Prophet. I believe in the Day of Judgment. I believe in prayer. I believe in fast. I believe in all that. But that last part, make an exception. Oh, Muhammad, I'll join your faith if you just let me drink. Rasulullah looked at him. You've heard. That's my words, not Rasulullah. But Rasulullah told him, no, this is a one package, right? Dinullah, dinun wahid. The religion of Allah is what? One faith. You accept it all or you reject it. This man, look, he already had believed. That's what boggles my mind. He already had believed in everything, in Tawheed, in Adalah, in Nubuwwah, in Ma'ad, and all the other furu' al-Deen. Right? But because of this one act, he was a drunkard, he was addicted to alcohol. Rasulullah told him no. So he said, in that case, I can't join you. He said, I'm going to do some more traveling. Next year, I'll find myself again in Medina. Next year, inshallah, by then I'll have quit alcohol and I'll join you. Rasulullah told him, it's up to you, but I wouldn't recommend that. He said, no, this is what I'll do. Guess what? A few months later, he passed away. He did not have the tawfiq of joining Islam, even though he was so lucky, just a random guy, probably illiterate, walking the deserts to have met Rasulullah, accepted the teachings of Allah, but because of procrastination, right? Because of alcohol, of all things, right? This toxin to your body, he was. He died a mushrik. He died a mushrik after what? After meeting Rasulullah, after getting exposed to the truth. Had he just been a Bedouin traveling the desert, it's probably better for him. Look at the utter lack of tawfiq because of, number one, alcohol, and number two, the procrastination that this man had. So my dear brothers and sisters, tomorrow, next week, next month is not guaranteed. You want to stop a bad habit, you want to start a new habit, you want to start studying, you want to start praying on time, waking up for Fajr, stop listening to music, you have to make that commitment now. You never live in the future. The future never comes. You only ever live in the present. So now is the time to make your decision. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, one good way to keep track of your time and do time management is to get a plan. There's no way you'll ever find time, right? We're always busy, right? We never have time to read a juz'ah, to do something good, to go do charity, help my parents out. My dear brothers and sisters, you have to make time. That's how you get things done. Get a planner, map out your hours when you wake up, when you sleep. Then you'll find, wow, there's so many hours in the day that because I just used to waste them, that I now have opportunities to do good. In fact, there's a scholar in Rome that I met. He says, he's a teacher in the seminary. He says, I plan out my day to such an extent. He says, when I'm walking to the grocery store, and then when I'm walking back, I plan what kind of discussion I'm going to have in my class. So even the walk to the grocery store, it's like I utilize that to my advantage. Every minute is utilized. We mentioned a couple nights ago, Ayatollah Murujabli mentioned that during the few minutes waiting in line, doing this, he would spend what? Memorizing the Quran. It wasn't even a concerted effort. And yet, a few years later, he had 14 juz' memorized. So my dear brothers, we have to take advantage of every single minute in the day. In fact, there are hadith provided to us by the Ahlul Bayt on time management. Because what? The ulum, the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt is not only in fiqh and usul and aqa'id, no. The sciences of Ahlul Bayt extend through every field and every discipline. And there are even a hadith on what? Time management. For example, there's one hadith attributed to the Ahlul Bayt that says the best time to study. So my dear brothers and sisters, if you're in school, if you're studying, the best time to study is bayn al-tulu'ayn. In fact, it's makruh to sleep at this time period, between Fajr and sunrise. Right? There's like an hour and a half period. It's makruh to sleep, and it's highly recommended to study during this time period. Another example, one hadith says it's makruh to read, whether it's for studying or you're just reading a book, reading a newspaper, half an hour before Maghrib. So kind of like now. Half an hour before Maghrib, dedicate it to preparing for Maghrib, for worship, preparing for the night. Don't do reading. What is the wisdom behind this? Allahu Akbar. The Ahlul Bayt, their knowledge is from whom? From their fathers, from Rasulullah, who was what? Al-Dabani Allah. All by Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Everything from the Ahlul Bayt eventually comes from Allah Azza wa Jalla. There's a hadith that says your visitations of people, if you want to visit people, do a ziyarah of people, make it during the day, not during the nighttime. Now, I don't know how it is here, but within Arab culture typically, the nighttime sahrat, the nighttime visitations are very common. You go after Maghrib, you stay till midnight with the agil and the hookah, right? This is not recommended. The hadith recommend if you want to visit people, make it during the day. There's a time and place for everything. And I guess visiting people, it's times during the day. There's a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen in which he says, the tasks that only you're able to do, you do them. Tasks that others are able to do, delegate those tasks. You find in business, this is very sound advice. In life, this is also very sound advice. All these, and there's many more, I just chose a few excerpts. If you study what the Ahlul Bayt have said on time management, you're able to utilize your time so much more effectively. And my dear brothers and sisters, the best way to have your time and your day focused on Allah Azza wa Jalla, right? So that you don't get too ingrained into work, into dunya, to whatever it is that this world has to offer. My advice is, if you have a plan, or even if you don't, plan your day around salah. Plan your visitations, your breaks, your outings around prayer, around dhuhr and asr, around the maghrib and isha. That way, prayer becomes the center of your day and the center of your life. And that way you can have a God-centered life. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, there's 3 key areas of focus to spend our time on. Now, obviously, there's many productive ways to use our time. But inshallah, tonight, we'll be discussing 3 important ways we can all utilize our time after Allah sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Number 1 is seeking knowledge. طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. The hadith of Rasulullah. Seeking knowledge is a fariḍah, it's an obligation, it's not recommended upon every Muslim man and woman. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, that doesn't mean we all necessarily have to go and be scholars, study 20 years in the house and pursue a PhD. No, knowledge can come in various forms. Even if you study as little as 15 minutes a day, take a book, right? Not Harry Potter, something beneficial. A non-fiction book, a work about Tawheed, about Islam, write something that elevates your soul, your spirit. If you spend 15 minutes a day, and how much is 15 minutes? I'll say that's not much. If you spend 15 minutes a day, in a year, do you know how much you'll have benefited? 90 hours worth. If you spend 15 minutes a day learning something new, a new skill, a new field, a new discipline, within a year, that's 90 hours where you've learned something new. Now imagine how much more knowledge you have with 90 hours worth. And look, remember, 15 minutes equals 90 hours in a year. So people that are spending 4 or 5 hours on their phone, on useless stuff, how many hours is that during the year? How many days and weeks literally are you wasting? So to combat that, those 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, just spend 15 minutes a day picking up a book, learning something new, right? There's a hadith that says, whoever's knowledge and taqwa is the same as the one who is yesterday, he's at a loss. Whoever's taqwa is less than he was yesterday is cursed, and blessed is he or her that his knowledge and taqwa is better than yesterday. So we always have to make an effort to what? To learn more. There's a very inspiring story by a scholar in Poland who passed away, and Allah bless his soul. And in fact, he was one of my father's instructors in Poland. He's known as Mudarris al-Afghani. Now, Mudarris al-Afghani is one of the top scholars in Poland, or was. And in fact, it's said that usually in the seminary, you get a stipend to study. But his class was so much sought after, he would actually charge for people to come. And his classes were always filled. Now, what's his story? He was born in Afghanistan, right, Mudarris al-Afghani, in a very, very, very small rural village. And his parents were farmers. But he, ever since he was young, he had a passion for knowledge. He always wanted to learn. So what happened? His biography states that one day he came to his parents and he told them, I want to move to Najaf to study and learn. Now at the time, this is maybe in the 1920s, there were no planes in that area, probably no working cars in this mountainous remote region. So his parents told him, look, we need you to work in the house, we need you to be here. But even if we did, Abi, how are we even going to get there? It's thousands of miles through treacherous mountains. As the saying says, as long as there's a will, there's a way. So he insisted upon them until finally they granted him permission to what? To go to Iraq. His biography states that the treacherous path from his village in Afghanistan to Najaf, thousands of kilometers of treacherous mountain line, he trekked by foot. Look at the dedication of this teenager to knowledge. And we don't have time for 15 minutes a day. Just go on your phone, just download an ebook. It's not that complicated. So once he got to Najaf, now he's completed this big task. But what's next? He doesn't know what to do. He's a stranger. He doesn't really speak the language of the area. He's not too familiar. He doesn't have any family, any friends. So where does he go? He goes to the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He spends a few hours in recitation, right, doing the ziyarah. Then, night is about to fall. Where does he go? It's said that he starts to walk the streets of Najaf until he falls where? He starts walking through Wadi Salam. Wadi Salam, my dear brothers and sisters, is the largest cemetery in the world. You think it's a city. So maybe inadvertently, he found himself walking through Wadi Salam. In Wadi Salam, there's doors that you can open that lead to basements. So he just opens the door, sees it's not locked. He goes to a basement, and the shelves on the wall are what? The dead bodies. So he finds just an area on the ground, and he sleeps. And where else does he go? He wakes up in the morning before Fajr. He's in a daze, and it's really hot. So he's really thirsty. Now he's in this daze, so he can't really think. He sees a stream of water right next to his head. What does he do? He drinks. Now after he drinks for a while, he thinks, I'm in a cemetery. This can't possibly be a stream. I'm in the basement. So he looks for the source of this water. What is it? He finds in the room adjacent, there's two people washing a dead body. And this is the water, the runoff of that. At that point, he's disgusted. So he goes running barefoot at him. And he begins to complain. He says, Sayyidi the master, this is how you treat your guests? I came all this way, this long, treacherous journey, and this is how I'm treated? I sleep in a cemetery in the basement. This is the water that I drink? So he really poured his heart out, of course, in a polite, what manner? So I mean, then it said, as he's walking out, someone begins running towards him. He sees it's someone dressed in the garb of a seminary student, and he begins to speak to him in his own language. He tells him, are you from so-and-so region? He says, yes, in his language. He says, are you here to study? Is that your purpose? He says, yes. He says, my teacher, who heads a seminary, told me, whenever you find someone new, and they're here for the seminary, bring them to my dorm. So he says that day, he took him to his dorm, he found his place of living, and he started receiving his stipend from that day. So subhanAllah, within minutes of exiting the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he had a place to stay, and he had an income, and he was able to study, and he is known as one of the greatest scholars in the seminary. Look at the pursuit of knowledge. What kind of efforts this young man had in order to attain such a status. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So inshallah, we're able to even do a fraction of that by spending 15 minutes a day, my dear brothers and sisters, in increasing our knowledge. Lastly, my dear brothers and sisters, we have to increase our taqwa. One good way, one shortcut, one expedited path of increasing our taqwa. You can increase the taqwa and khushu' in your prayer through this simple hack. Every day, my dear brothers and sisters, whenever you're about to do a prayer, whether it's Maghribain, whether it's Fajr, whether it's Fajr, dedicate that prayer to one blessing given to you by Allah. Whether it's a blessing of security, the blessings of having a safe place to stay, the blessings of a community, the blessings of having a healthy body, the blessings of having a job, the blessings of having a good family. Your blessings are innumerable, right? Allah says that even if you try to count the blessings of Allah, you won't be able to. So every day, dedicate with your heart and soul that prayer to one blessing of Allah. Until the end of your life, till the day you die, you'll always have what? Material to thank Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's one way you're able to what? Increase your taqwa. There's a hadith that says, Imam Ali al-Rida salamullahi alayhi. He would do a full khatim of the Quran, a full recital of the Quran every 3 days. This is beyond Ramadan. And most of us, during Ramadan, if we're able to, we do one juz a day, right? So that the whole month of Ramadan, we get one khatim. Imam al-Rida, all throughout the year, every 3 days, he would do a full khatim of the Quran. We have to deepen our relationship with the Quran. We spoke in the previous nights about the Quran, its variety, its multitude of knowledge, of depth. And we have to always constantly increase our relationship with the Quran. And lastly, my dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, we'll conclude with this. A key area of focus we have to spend our time on is with family. Many of us, because of work, because of our studies, because we're living far away, we don't have quality time with our family. Parents, I hope if you're listening to this, you take this to your heart. Your children, they don't want, yes, if you're providing for them, you're putting them in a good school. I hear Mason here has one of the best school districts. That's all amazing. That's all great. You buy them a new iPhone for their birthday, amazing. But deep down, that's not what your kids want. Yes, they appreciate that. Inshallah, they will. But honestly, every child wants what? The affection of their parents. They want your time, my dear brothers and sisters. That's what your children want. Quality time, not interrogating them, why do you get a 96, not 100? No, that's not what they want. Quality time. You become their friend. That, my dear brothers and sisters, is what your children genuinely want. So put the phone down, turn off the TV, and have some quality time with your family. And same thing, I repeat to my younger brothers and sisters. Put TikTok to the side for a second. Go and speak with your parents. Strike up a conversation. Ask them how their work was, how their day was. Have this quality bonding time. My dear brothers and sisters, you will not appreciate your parents until the day you lose them. So strive to appreciate them and spend as much time as what Allah has blessed you to have them. So my dear brothers and sisters, these are three key areas we have to be focused on. Knowledge, that's number one. Taqwa, and increasing the quality of our relationships with our family. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the blessing of this month, and the Eid is just a couple days from now, by the blessing of this month, to grant us all our hajat and to grant us tawfiq in all of these different categories. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
We have 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Get ready for Ramadan on the bench. Get these things. Okay.
Give me one copy. Give me one copy. Inshallah, we can be promoted. Kids that spend 4 or 5 hours video games. 4 or 5 hours. Everyone is. Kids is the video games. Us is the WhatsApp. And these things are really waste our time.
And there's a move for this one.
You're still very young. Much like you like that. I don't know.
The one that I perfectly.
Med slå dito.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على
الله أشهد أن